Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome again to our second episode of What Would You Do's Woody Allen Decades in Film. I am William Elvin, and of course, here with me again is my fellow Hong Kong-based artist, Q. Say hello to our listeners.
Hey, everybody. Hey, how is everybody doing today? I was about to say that that movie was clearly bananas.
Yeah, lived up to its name, right? Lived up to its title. Yeah. But before we go deeper into this film, this is our second episode, Bananas. We're talking about it. Woody Allen's body of work. This is the second film credited to Woody Allen as both a writer and a director. And he's also acting in this one, co-written by him and Mickey Rose, who was also the writer of the last one, also the co-writer of the last one, Take the Money and Run. Our podcast is available on Spotify and other streaming services. We're also going to put this up on YouTube, so make sure to follow us and subscribe wherever you're listening to the podcast. But let's talk briefly about the movie right now. As we said, it's Bananas. How would you describe the plot of this bizarre film?
Okay, as I've mentioned that it it was actually quite confusing. I mean, okay. So for everyone who's listening, the way that we do the way that we watch this in this day and age is we stream it amongst ourselves and we do kind of a watch party while we're watching the same film. So in this day of in this era of the pandemic where everything and everyone is just doing live streaming and like Zoom meetings and whatever, it's so interesting. I don't know, because this movie was quite confusing for me. In the way that I guess I have to attribute it to the fact that it is bananas, and I think it was deliberately cut in that confusing kind of like avant-garde manner. But also, I think it didn't help that the connection sometimes was pretty shit.
Yeah.
Which
probably
added
someone's
much
watching
to the confusion.
Netflix on the next room or whatever.
Yeah. I have to admit that I liked the last movie, the first movie that we watched, better than this one. Although this movie had several points that I was like, oh my god, this movie literally had me slapping my face, like face palming my face for quite several scenes. I was like, what is going on?
Wait. So are you saying the jokes in this one are funnier, but the first one was a better movie? Is it kind of like that?
That's an interesting question. I don't think the first one was a better movie in terms of how maybe it was written. I think this, by all accounts, I think this movie is a little bit smarter in the way that it was written, because of the themes that they were trying to tackle. So, I noticed, like, in this movie, they were trying, Woody Allen was trying to kind of like introduce certain ideas, so to speak. Particularly since I think this was filmed in the 70s, correct?
This is 1971. This film is from 1971.
And particularly like in the 70s, you know, how people were kind of like exploring a lot of those ideas. And I can see in this film, like the way it was written, that he was trying to kind of like introduce those revolutionary ideas. Basically, it's almost like a big parody of the way that America was at the time. The way that he introduced and closed the movie with sports commentating.
Right, which is a
Yeah.
very clever joke. When I
Yeah.
first saw this, I was really young when I first saw this, and I said, it's like, I I haven't seen anything at that point. This was before I even saw Monty Python,
Mhm.
or those things. And I said, like, that is so weird, but it's also so funny. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
the opening scene of this one is. By the way, quick spoilers, quick spoilers ahead for everyone if you haven't seen this film. But the opening scene of this one is a comedic representation of an assassination, of the former president being assassinated, the former
Yeah. Yeah.
president
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
San Marcos. Am I saying that San Marcos is the fictional Latin American country that is being portrayed in this film, and it's like it's commentated like a boxing match,
Yeah.
which
Exactly.
also
Exactly.
bookended the show, the movie. It's certainly a confusing one. I was also confused when I first saw this one, many years ago, and I think this is my least favorite of the early funny ones,
Okay.
by Woody Allen. But it also introduced a lot of the ideas and the themes and the
Mm.
motifs that we are going to see in the Woody Allen filmography going forward. And we'll talk more about that in a while. But
Mhm.
also, this film is also on the same list where Take the Money and Run was put. Like the AFI, American Film Institute's 100 Years, 100 Laughs.
Really?
It's a notch. It's a few notches lower than Take the Money and Run. It's on
Yeah.
number 69. The
Yeah.
first one, I think, is in number
Nice.
66. Yeah, yeah, it's a nice number for a raunchy sex comedy such as Bananas. But yeah, that's it. That's the basic background. That's the overview that we could give for this film. Let's now move on to our more specific thoughts on this movie.
Hmm.
I'm going to start with my observations as a long time Woody Allen fan, and looking back to this film, you see him pushing more of the risque humor, right? That
Hmm.
we saw a little bit in Take the Money and Run, but also this is where I think is the first reference to things like philosophy. He referred to Carl Jung
Mm.
and Kierkegaard in this movie, in his first conversation with Louise Lasser's character. Also, the first reference to psychotherapy, which is going to be appearing again and again in his 50
Wow.
movie
Okay. So that's a
run.
recurring
Eh,
theme.
Yes, that's going to be a recurring theme. Psychotherapy is very, very much a looming, a looming element in almost
Hmm.
all of his films going forward. This is also the where we saw first hints of European cinematography. We're gonna talk more about that in a bit. I think his influence in comedy could have been mostly felt in the 90s. We've already seen his influence in Seinfeld or Curb Your
Hmm.
Enthusiasm. And even in sex comedies like American Pie, you could see the Woody
Yeah.
Allen
Yeah. Yeah.
sex jokes seeping through this whole thing, and even the harp in the closet gag. You remember that? Like you almost thought it was gonna
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
dream sequence. Apparently, it's a guy with a harp. Playing the harp
In the
in
closet.
inside a closet. That's very much like a Family Guy joke. So you kind of see everything has been kind of influenced by this era of comedy. But of course, those are the my initial observations.
You know what my first stream of thought was? That if this movie launched
Yeah,
today, he would so be canceled.
which is not to say he is not kind of canceled. He is kind of canceled today.
No, but You know how people, this movie kind of delivers the same shock and awe as possibly even at the time that it was first debuted in cinemas, because I think
Yeah.
he really was going for that kind of like crass, kind of like
Yeah.
very to the to the it's very borderline obscene, like
Yes. 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 Yes.
in the things that he was trying to kind of like put forward. And
Right.
I was like, how did this guy, how has he able to kind of move those scenes forward in this platform? That was mind boggling to me.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, I wasn't even none I wasn't
We.
even thought about yet. And I have no idea how people, how their minds work in the 70s, but I
Yeah.
assume that things like this, it kind of followed like nervous laughter. You'd laugh, but and you'd understand the wrongness of why you're laughing, but
Right.
you'd still
Right.
laugh and kind of shrug
Right.
it off because, oh, it's
Right.
comedy.
Right. Right.
So I would say that this is a lot smarter in terms of like the punchlines that he was
Yeah.
trying to kind of make fun of.
It's
Yeah,
certainly
yeah, yeah.
braver to
Exactly, exactly.
in a lot of ways, right? Yeah.
One of the memorable lines that he that I got from this movie is when he was describing that he was reading a pornographic book printed in braille.
Oh yeah, yeah, and he rubbed the dirty parts. Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I was like, who thinks about these like punchlines?
yeah. What
And
what
that,
is so witty? There's
yeah.
even like from the most benign romantic ones to the
Hmm.
dirtier ones like the Braille line. I even have like one of the best one of the best romantic jokes I've heard ever is also
Hmm.
from this film. There's a line here where he says, "I fell in love, but she just stood there." That's so. It's amazing how he constructs these things. We will see a lot of this wit in the whole 50 film run from Woody Allen.
Oh, but I was just explaining like a few minutes ago before we did this recording to my father-in-law, and
Yeah,
I mentioned to him that we are doing a podcast about Woody Allen and
yeah,
his
Woody. Yeah,
filmography. And he was asking,
yeah,
"Oh, okay. What movie did you guys watch?" And I was like, "Oh, this movie about bananas." Or the title of the
yeah,
movie is Bananas, and I
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
like briefly touched on what it was. Like, oh, they
yeah,
went to kind of overthrow this Latin
yeah,
American country, and and his reaction to it was like, "Oh, so Banana Republic, like
yeah, yeah, yeah,
it's kind of a parody towards that."
yeah,
And it kind of clicked in my head, and I was like, oh, that's
yeah,
what he meant with the term bananas.
yeah. Banana Republic, and also bananas in a crazy sense. And as you said, this is a smarter comedy than Take the Money and Run,
Mm,
which is also why I think it was more experimental as a film, going to his directorial style in this film. It's much
mm.
more, as I said, as someone who's familiar with his references and his favorite filmmakers. His favorite filmmaker is Ingmar Bergman, and you could see a lot of Bergman in this film. You know the way he would shoot the faces. He has a lots of
Hmm.
he has two or three scenes here where he would just put faces on the camera, like overlapping faces. That's a very, 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 very much a Bergman reference. A lot of the scenes here are very much European influence. There's even one scene where he referenced this film called Battleship Potemkin. I'm not sure if
Mm.
I'm pronouncing that right, but the scene where a baby carriage was
Was
falling down
falling down the steps. Yeah.
from the steps. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a Battleship Potemkin reference, and you kind of see him putting these influences forward
Mhm.
Uh, it's kind of on the nose, but you kind of know and you kind of feel like, okay, he's trying to do something here that no one else in
Mm.
comedy has done before. So in a way, he was pushing things forward with this effort with
Mhm.
Bananas. This film also contained one of the first appearances of another Hollywood legend.
Oh my God! Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, Sylvester Stallone is in this film as a thug in the New York subway.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what? How did you feel when you first saw that? It's like, this guy is going to be one of the biggest stars in Hollywood in just a few years. And like Woody
Correct.
Allen, he's also going to be a very good writer and a very good filmmaker.
Hold on.
This is an awesome connection here, right?
So this was pre huge Sylvester Stallone. So this was his
Pre-huge,
what?
pre-Rocky. This is
Oh
pre-Rocky.
wow!
Yeah.
Wow!
The
I
only
did not
the
know
only
that.
thing Sylvester Stallone has done, I think, at this point in film, and I may be mistaken, but this would sound funny, was a softcore porn thing. Uh, that's the thing he did before he landed this this very interesting role here in
Oh
Bananas.
wow! Was he credited in this movie?
I don't think he was. I think he was
Oh yeah, he
uncredited in
wasn't.
this
He
film.
wasn't. He
Yeah,
wasn't.
yeah,
So I was.
yeah, yeah.
I just brought up the Wikipedia of Sylvester
Of
Stallone's
Bananas.
filmography. No,
Yeah.
filmography.
Okay. Yeah.
And it says here, like in 1971, Bananas, he was uncredited. And he was Subway Thug number one.
Subway Fug number one. There's gonna be Rocky in a few. Just wait.
Amazing.
Everyone's everyone has to start somewhere. The thing with this film is that I think it's like a string of random gags. And Take the Money and Run was also felt like that. But I think Take the
Mhm.
Money and Run was a bit more coherent than this one. A lot of things are coming out of left field.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That
I was
that
I
that
was I
New
was just
Testament commercial was out of left
oh
field.
that
Um,
was super out of left field. There are times in this movie where I would literally, and this is quite literally happening while I was watching, I was shaking my head in disbelief. I'm like, where did this come from? I'm like, was he bored or something?
he was probably just trying things out.
Mm,
Because sometimes he would do this. Even in his later work, he was like you just know that the idea is quite unfinished, but he just wanted to put
mm,
it out there so that he can test it. I think this is one of the movies where you could see where that is happening. We can't talk about this film and not talk about his ex-wife Louise Lasser, who's also taking second lead in this film. We saw her first
hmm.
in Take the Money and Run as that random
Lady, yeah.
interviewee. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and Louise Lasser's reactions here are so real. I kind of think that some of these conversations are also improvised. You remember that breakup scene where Woody would just throw a joke and she'd legitimately laugh at it, and the scene would just like take a pause because she was still laughing. You could see how much these people are so comfortable with each other, right?
I don't know, but I noticed something. I don't know if this was deliberate or if this was
Yeah.
actually what was intended, but whenever they have a conversation about value, like do you love me or what,
Mm.
or
Mm.
actually whatever there's a conflict in their dialogue, like
Yeah.
whenever Woody was trying to push something and she was going against it, it was always going around in circles. It's like they were deliberately avoiding the issue by just throwing in deep words and fluff,
Yeah.
and at the end of it, none of it will be resolved.
Yeah. None of it would be resolved.
It's almost a mockery of relationships, like, oh, I love you, do you love me? Yeah, no, but I want to do this. oh, okay, then but I do this. What else do you want? No, but there's something missing. And I was like,
Yeah, yeah.
get to the point.
I think one of the smartest jokes in this film is that when they made love again, as when Woody was already the bearded dictator of San
that
Marcos,
that that was
and
the
they made
best
love again, and he revealed himself, and Louise Lasser was like, "I knew there was something
thing
missing."
missing. Yeah, exactly,
It's a
exactly,
very
right?
it's a very funny mind. You could just say this, this is a very very funny, witty, smart individual.
I sorry, I remembered that other joke in the courthouse where the witness was J. Edgar Hoover, and I was like, what? I'm like, what the
And
hell is going
it's a
on?
it's a multi-layer joke because like it's
Exactly,
like the
exactly.
cross-dressing and this it's so it pushes a lot of things, and there's this one joke in the court scene where it's like he was trying to question the credibility of the juries because there's not one homosexual in there, and the judge says, well, there's one. He was like, oh, which one? Is it the big guy there? It's
I think I wanna watch this movie again. Slower, I guess.
oh,
I guess slower this time,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I wanna kind of try and understand what he wanted for certain scenes, because I'm like, some of, because there's so much going on in like some scenes that I'm like, wait, did I miss a detail? Did I? It has that sort
That's
of
true. That's
quality.
true. That's true. Even the structure of the storytelling is like I'm not gonna say it's bad, because I don't know what standards he was going for,
Hmm.
in this film, but it's definitely not your 3 act structure film where you
No.
expose everything in the first 30 minutes, and then this happens, and then this happens in Act 3. It doesn't feel like it. It feels like a string of random gags, and then
Yeah,
that
yeah.
that's being improvised inside a box of loose plot. And again, just like take the money and run. This is just joke after joke after joke.
Hmm. Hmm.
When you would have the string quartet without the instruments.
Oh my
It's
god, that was
like a lot of these jokes taken individually were brilliant. Like in and of themselves are brilliant.
yeah.
Like piece by piece. It's I like Take the Money and Run better than this one, but still this is a comedy gem for me.
Good thing you brought up that that stringless string quartet. I was like, when I first saw it, I was like, did I hold on? Did I not see any instruments in their hands? And they were just doing the motions, like, and I'm like, oh my god, this guy.
From what I remember reading, they were supposed to have instruments, but the instrument rental did not arrive in time. So he wanted
That
to shoot
makes it
it, and then they did
funnier.
it that time.
That makes it even funnier. Oh my god.
Made
And,
it
and, and
Yeah,
then
it made the scene even funnier because like if there were like real instruments there, it's just gonna
yeah,
be like
exactly.
another set piece in the background, but then it becomes a part
Exactly.
of the joke. Yeah. Here's the thing. I talked to one friend before who said like for better or for worse, Woody Allen, uh, even if he denies it or not, he puts a lot of himself in his work, and you could see
Hmm.
like it's almost like if a psychologist would watch his movies. It's like the psychologist could diagnose Woody Allen from,
Yeah,
from
yeah.
from from just watching these films, and it's like you could see his sexual frustrations. You could see these things, coming alive and being put on camera, and it's just like, and I think that's what makes it that's what makes it charming. Not for
Yeah,
everyone. I think it's fair to say that his type of comedy and his type of humor and his type of thinking is not for everyone. But if you're
yeah.
an open-minded, interested kind of person, you'd automatically, I think, would like or be interested in knowing more and hearing more from this guy.
This movie would definitely offend a lot of people if they watched it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when you said that, you know how comedy always is born out of you finding funny in whatever situation, and it doesn't really matter if it's not funny
Yes.
with
Yeah. Yeah.
other
Even in
people, but
tragic
you find it.
situations.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that, I think that's exactly what happened here. Like, it's such a cringy comedy, but it's funny
Yeah.
still. That you can see that, you can see the
Yeah.
humor in it, and I appreciate that. I mean, as I've said, although Take the Money and Run was such a bodily visual comedy that you can easily interpret it, this one kind of, when
Yeah.
I think this one, that I appreciate this, that I appreciate in this movie was that when you look back in this different scenes, when you kind of piece them out in your head, it really just makes you think, and it really kind of like draws out why it's funny, and
Yeah.
what kind of effect it imparted on you.
Judging this film, if you are Rotten Tomatoes, if you are IMDb,
What I liked about this film is that it kind of pushed the boundaries. What I didn't like is how confusing it was at times. And I literally had to kind of like, hey, wait, let's go back like a minute. I kind of missed
yeah,
that detail. But overall, I mean, there's a lot of push for films that make people think and make people kind of assess and do a double take. So I would think, in terms of
yeah.
like a score out of 10, I think I'd give this almost a 6 in my book.
So it's about a 5.8 or 6 or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think this, as I've mentioned, I think this kind of warrants a second watch, just so that I kind of want to understand kind of like the motivations in some of the
Yeah.
in some of the scenes, because there, for me, it was, there are certain like ideas and themes that kind of were left hanging in my head that
Yeah.
I kind of want to resolve this time around. But for now, after this first viewing of Bananas, that's my score. Like almost 6, so it's kind of like 5.8 out of 10.
You know what, I think the perfect timing of rewatching Bananas, if when you've seen most of his great work already.
Mm,
You
mm.
kind of go back to this and say, okay, so that's what he was trying to do. Maybe that's like the germ of what he was trying to do later on. And I think
Mhm.
you would see elements from Take the Money and Run out of that, and most of these early comedies, which would mature into something else when he's already
Mhm.
the Woody Allen everyone loves and hates at the same time. And this is going to be very, very interesting because the next, if you think this was offensive, if you think this was risque, and if you think this was pushing some boundaries, the next one is going to
Oh
blow
no.
everything out of the water 50 times more, I would say. But before that, of course, we are going to just put things in context. The next movie is Everything You Wanted to Know About Sex But Were Afraid to Ask. But
Mhm.
before this film, before that, because this is 1971. Bananas is
Mhm.
1971. 1972 is Everything You Always Wanted to Know About Sex. Between these two movies, he acted in one movie, which we
Mhm.
aren't going to cover yet,
Oh,
because
okay.
it's not going to be part of the Woody Allen proper canon, but he wrote
Okay.
that script as a play. It had a nice run in Broadway,
Okay.
and a director wanted to make a movie out of it. So Herbert Ross, the film director, made a movie version with him, Woody
Mhm.
Allen on lead, and Diane Keaton, the first
Oh
Woody
wow.
and
Okay.
Diane Keaton pairing,
Mhm.
play it against Sam, and we are going to meet Diane Keaton in a few years after that. But that's more like a romantic comedy, so it's like a precursor to what he was going to be known for a bit after this. But it's quite surprising that after a romantic comedy, people are gonna see a very raunchy, very obscene sex comedy from Woody Allen, which is everything you wanted to know, or everything you always wanted to know about sex, but were afraid to ask. What are your expectations for this film?
My ex well, to be
Yeah.
honest, I really wanted to know about sex. So I
But
really
you're
want
afraid to ask.
no, but it's exactly that because you know how I mean, even in this day and age, even in 2021, even present day, sex is still taboo. Like
Yes.
you're not gonna go to your parents or my parents or just some random stranger on the street and oh, how's your sex life? You don't do that.
You don't, yeah, yeah, yeah. You don't say that, right? You don't.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm kind of hyped to be honest. I am kind of excited to watch this movie and have it enlighten me about the things that I wanted to know about sex but were afraid to ask.
But that film is going to be what we are covering for the next week. And it's going
Yep.
to star again Woody Allen, and we're going to see a bit more of the familiar names like Gene Wilder, who will
Ooh.
be known as Willy Wonka, and
Mm-hmm.
we are going to see Burt Reynolds in here.
Oh, okay.
Let's yeah, we are going to see a lot of
Burt
things and
Reynolds.
a lot of yeah, we are going to see a lot of weird perverse things from this film. So let's let's go forward next week and talk about sex and talk about
I'm,
the things that we're afraid to ask.
is there a plot to this movie?
Yeah.
Is there gonna be a plot? Let's not answer any of those questions because I want
Yeah, yeah. I don't
my
want to color your
viewing
judgment.
to be
Yeah,
unadulterated.
I don't want to color your judgment. This is how things are
Yeah,
gonna be for this podcast. I don't want to color your judgment,
correct.
and unless it's a general one, like you already know that he was going to be known as a respected filmmaker along the line, along the way. So
It's good.
that's not
It's
a
good to know
spoiler,
that.
right? Like everyone knows that, but you
Yeah.
don't know like little details as the films go by, and that's why we're doing this show, because I think Woody Allen fans are excited to introduce these films to like newer eyes, and this is something that unfolds that right in front of them, and so that's what we're
Yeah.
going to
And
be
okay,
doing here in the show.
so I apologize in advance to all of those current and future Woody Allen fans if my reactions about his future movies based on what I am just beginning this journey of my Woody Allen appreciation, and I hope you don't take offense about the things that come out of my mouth.
No, no, no. I don't think Woody Allen fans are like Zack Snyder fans, or I don't think it's like this is not an MCU type of thing. Oh, you hate Iron Man. I hate you. It's not gonna be one of those. This is a very welcoming. There's no gatekeeping in here. There's nothing
that's
of
great to
that
hear.
shit here. Yeah. Relax.
Great to hear.
Just relax and go through this ride with all of us in the Woody Allen fan community. I am William Elvin, and this is Q with me, who's going to invite you to the next week's and to our podcast sites and where you can follow us.
Yeah. So I'm actually very very psyched for this. For those people who want to kind of follow us, we're available on Spotify and all the major podcast outlets. I would think. If you have any questions or suggestions, or maybe you just want to reach out to us, I think there's if I'm not mistaken, William, there's a way that they can do that on Anchor.fm. Or actually, you
Yes.
can just you can send us an email
Yeah.
if you have like reactions or violence towards
Yeah.
any of our episodes.
Yeah.
Please do
Yeah.
email
Hopefully
us
none.
at
Hopefully none.
please do email us at whatwoodydo@gmail.com. And I'm super psyched for this next episode, to be honest.
We are going to leave you for now and see you next week. This has been What Would You Do?